he had something pressing. So consequently, a big shout out to Keith James, who only joined BIM4Housing at the last meeting, but has already been promoted and will be in charge of Group 4. We recognise talent at BIM4Housing.
Where's my badge? I need a badge.
So I'll be switching over and in theory leading Group 3. Okay, what's the time? Okay, well, I think we'll make a start. On this. Before we get, I've got about several related things. I'm not sure which order to do them in. I was just getting prepared and realised I hadn't shaved. So everything really has gone belly up. Right, what I'm going to suggest is, George, do you want to give a quick run through? I mean, bear in mind, obviously, a lot of the people already heard this, but we've got a lot of new ones on here, new people on here. So it'd be good to just give them a bit of background before we progress.
Sure. Okay. I'll just put a bit of context between, what we're doing and how this works. So, BIM4Housing, basically, we've got about 400 or 500 members. Our focus isn't on 3D modeling; it's about better information management. And we've got 6 working groups, which meet every couple of months, and they determine what we're trying to achieve in terms of how can we solve real business problems with better information management. And in many cases, there are things that aren't in those individual silos. There are things that, for example, construction can benefit from better information from development. And the same with advisory, which is really where Firedoor inspection sits, and some of the other areas. So what we do is they determine the topics that they want to concentrate on, and we then develop work streams. So the activity that we're doing here today, and we're going to be doing over the next few weeks, is a work stream that falls under the fire safety aspect. And it's the various different groups produce resources which are available on the BIM4Housing website for standardized data templates, improved sort of classification and that side of things. So also in parallel with this, I chair the Golden Thread Initiative Asset and Survey Information Group. And the purpose of that was really to determine what data do you need about assets. And what we discovered, because we took a steer from the HSE, is it depends. If you ask an expert, like many of the people around this table today, what information do you need to know about a fire door? You'd probably come back and say, well, it depends. It depends on the context in which you're asking that question. Is it when it's being installed? Is it when it's being maintained or replaced, manufactured, inspected? And so what we've done is concentrated on about 250 standard asset types. And we're doing that in the context of what information is needed. Can we go on mute? Because I'm getting quite a lot of background noise.
Yeah, just can you do the mute thing?
Yeah, don't mute me though.
Oh.
Yeah, that's okay. It's not a problem. Right. So the point about this is what we did in the Golden Thread is also tied it back to the gateways. So the regulatory gateways, and put it in the context of the REBA planner work. So the key ones for, I think, this group is really Gateway 2, which is the move between design and construction. And there should therefore be an inspection at that stage of what products or what specifications are being promoted, but really importantly at construction and handover, and then progressively through the life of the asset. And what is important here is that the regulator has the power to stop the project if they're not satisfied that the building is safe or will be safe. And that's the context in which obviously that's what we're trying to do with all of this. And we've been running roundtable workshops like this one, Teams workshops. And here this is one that we run last year at Digital Construction Week, an in-person one. And in each of these, you've got a design working group there and operations and manufacturers. And the principle is then to get collectively the knowledge about what's important. So this is what we've created as a resource. You can go onto the BIM4Housing website and get access to any of these. And they're really the distillation of the knowledge of people that really understand, cavity barriers and penetration seals and fire doors. And this is an example of what we've got for fire doors. An explanation that the format of this is common to all of those different, those 12 asset types. And what risk does it mitigate? So that's the perspective that everybody's working to. What do people do to a fire door to stop it from working? What information do we need about a fire door? And then how do we then look at that in a context? So it's a matter of not just looking at the fire door in isolation. It's also looking at it as to how it forms part of a system that's protecting against a hazard. So in this case, we've got a fire that breaks out in a kitchen. And what do we need to know about the fire compartment and the door and maybe the fire dampers that are in the wall or smoke dampers that are in the wall to stop smoke from spreading? And if the smoke spreads, what do we need to know about the AOV to make sure that that's going to allow people to get out? So the important thing here is that the fire door is not just an asset in itself. It's part of a system that is then protecting life, as it were. So the methodology that we're following, and this is why what you're doing here is so important, is the 5 steps that we've established. First of all, we've got to get this is what the landlords are doing, getting their drawings in place for the secure information box. And that's basically a very simple 2D plan that's laminated that really gives the fire rescue authorities the key information they need to know about that block, should unfortunately they have to deal with it. But the next step with that is actually to identify the specific assets that are in there. So, for example, the surveyors that are carrying out the scan to BIM, perhaps, to produce floor plans, they won't know which doors are fire doors, and they'll certainly not know which ones are 30 or 60-minute fire doors. That's something that's needed. We need the input from people like you to do that. And also, then it's a matter of then saying, how do we manage an ongoing inspection regime? So that's step 3 in our process. Then how do we then alert the fire rescue authorities and also the people that are liable for them of any failure? So if, for example, fire doors or any other key asset is failing, has failed, how do we let people know that? And then how do you overall put that in the context of a safety case? Because that's the next thing that obviously all landlords are having to look at, certainly by April. So what we've been doing is putting together a process where we've got specialists that are doing surveys and using some cool technology to do that, and then being able to then produce from that 360 photos as well that can then be used to do site inspections. And then we're then using those to produce 2D plans with symbols on them. And these symbols are intelligent, so they can then produce drawings that aren't just suitable for the fire rescue authorities, but we can also go through and add information to them. So when you're doing fire door inspections, for example, and you'll identify that that door is a 30 or a 60-minute door, that information can then be added to the object so that we end up with something that's intelligent. So this means that, for example, if somebody's using something, a Firedoor app, an inspection app, then that information in itself needs to be put back to a spatial model so you can see it in the context of what the hazard is, what the risk is, how is that protecting spaces, what activities are going on in those spaces, and also what other information do we need about those items? Maybe their detailed information, and also then perhaps product information as well. So that's really the journey that we're on. And what we're doing now is building on this. So Alan Oliver, who's on, sort of leading this for us, Alan did this. He can explain this better than I can. But the point is, we're taking what Alan has done, and people from last or a couple of weeks ago, we've been working on this to say, right, first of all, how do we establish what the door is at a baseline? So
Oh,
a new
George, yeah, maybe let Alan go through the methodology, do you think?
Well, I was just going to finish off with this.
Okay.
So there's three. So the point is, first of all, just identifying that there is a what type of door it is, and then how we then maintain it. So I'll hand over to Alan now.
Yeah, Alan, if you want to just give a quick run through of sort of the methodology, what we're, how we got where we are and what we're doing and the methodology we're using, and leave enough time because I want to ask you a question actually.
Okay. Well, this for those who've not heard this story before, this all started by a conversation with the chief fire engineer of NHS Improvement, when I said to him a couple of years ago, how is it that the biggest owner of fire doors in Europe, the NHS, doesn't have systems for inspecting them? And he said, I take your point, but they don't even have systems for fire risk assessing our buildings. Why don't you set up a working group and write a paper on how to do it? So that's how all this started. So we've got a healthcare fire door inspection reference document. It was actually the lead officer of the NFCC who said 90% of what's contained in this document relates to every fire door in the country. And George very much bought into that when I met him. I think it was in October or November last year, and he said, why don't we convert the healthcare reference document into a housing reference document, which I thought was a great idea, and this is where we are. So what we've done so far is we've looked at there's 4 main sections to the reference document. There's section 1, which details how to inspect brand new doors. There's section 2, which details how to inspect existing doors, often when there's no golden thread of information. There's section 3, which discusses how you do ongoing inspections of doors that have been either type 1 or type 2 inspected. And then section 4 is how you create a fire door management system, because clearly fire door inspections is only part of the whole thing. As George has just said, you've also got to obviously design them correctly, specify them correctly, procure them correctly, install them correctly, and then manage and maintain them correctly. So I think in a nutshell, that's where we're up to. And the final point, just like to say that I know that people have already embraced this very passionately. We're making really, really good progress, because what we did, we split the 4 sections into 4 working groups. And my understanding is that all 4 sections, all 4 working groups have made a really enthusiastic start. And there's a great deal of debate going on as to what should be included and so on and so on, which is great. That's all part of the task, and the outcome should be really positive and really good. So,
Alan, can I just ask you something? Not to kind of put a spoke in the wheel, but there's a lot of focus on the inspections, and I do one-to-one meetings with a lot of the HAs and LAs sporadically, and certainly my feeling is that a number of them are taking it that if they're doing the inspections properly, that's it. You know, they're going to be compliant. Do you think that's the case?
No, obviously, absolutely not. I mean, typically, I go into a hospital which might have 3,000-4,000 fire doors, and we sort of celebrate when we find one that's compliant. If it's not been installed under a third-party certification scheme, and if it's not being managed and maintained in a third-party certification scheme, you very, very rarely find one that's compliant. The issue then, though, is how compliant does it need to be? What is suitable and sufficient for its location? Because under the regulatory reform fire safety order, you've got to ensure that the fire safety components in your building are suitable and sufficient to protect relevant people, which is just about everybody, and to ensure that they can be protected during a fire incident and ultimately be able to successfully evacuate the building. So this is where the risk management concept comes into it, and this is why this reference document is in my opinion very worthwhile, because it does deal with the risk management aspect and the fire risk management aspect, and it's very much a pragmatic document which will enable companies with major non-compliance issues to manage and deal with these issues, maybe over 3 to 5 years as some sort of an action plan.
Excellent. No, thank you, George. Have you got anything to add to that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so I've got a questionnaire I'd like to run through with you, and I'm not sure whether to do it now or actually do it after we've had the meeting. In fact, I'll do it after we've broken for the breakout rooms. Jis has put there's 1, 2, 3, 4 breakout rooms. Jis has put the links to join the breakout room in the chat. We'll break out for half an hour and then come back on the link you use to get onto this meeting. I'll just read out who's in which group. Right, group 1. That's George's group. Danny Murphy, Elliot Dawson, obviously George, Neville Tomlin, and Steve Wiper. If you'd like to click on your group 1 link, and we'll see you in half an hour. Group 2, that's Alan, Dennis Monday, Anna Monday, Benjamin Freeman, and Helen Buchan. If you'd like to get onto group, hit your link and get onto group 2. Group 4, that's Keith with Paul Collicloth, Simon Kelly, Maynard Stevenson, and Gareth Fletcher. Somebody's saying no link. Just can you sort that?
I can't see a link, Richard.
What in the
I've just clicked on the chat.
In the chat?
Are we supposed to just click onto the chat?
Yeah, they've come up now. The links are there now.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Do you mind if I ask before we break up? The group 4 is about creating a robust management system.
That's correct. Yes.
I've been involved in maintaining assets generally, and the process, and I'm thinking it's a higher level than we're dealing with here, because we're dealing with individual sort of paragraphs of things to do, but there's a higher level, and I'm wondering whether it's relevant. So the higher level is, if you want to maintain an asset, you have the very top level, you have to decide how often you want to maintain it. So you've got a frequency. You do it monthly, do you do it 6 monthly, 3 monthly, whatever. And then when you do inspect it, you have to have a list of the things you're going to inspect. And at that point, you then need to raise issues, if there are any issues. And you then need to have a correction mechanism, and you need to collect the fact that it has been corrected and it is now signed off.
Absolutely,
so you can move on again.
Yeah, and that's what the other groups, I'm assuming, will be doing. If you can,
okay.
yeah. It could be that if you're sorting out an actual plan, that you put those points in the plan. Maybe.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Just one other point, Richard. Just one of the things to say. My understanding is, once we've agreed the words for the individual groups, section 1, section 2, section 3, section 4, we're then going to put it all together, and we're then going to put the completed revised paper out for robust peer review for the whole group.
Absolutely.
And then, so anyone who feels they're not in the right group to input to another group, you will have that opportunity.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Okay, guys. Well, feel free to go through to your groups.
I wasn't given a group. Should I just go into group 1? Cliff.
Sorry, who's this?
Cliff.
Sorry?
Cliff. Cliff Neal.
Yes, you want to go into group 1? Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
Right, group 3 is Paul Williams, Jim Hannon, Paul Bray, Tom Foxwell, Eric Hudson, if he's here, and Laura. So, guys, if you want to click through to group 3, I'll be with you in a minute.
Richard, sorry, I don't think I've got a group. Have you got any preference?
Joe, I'm easy, mate. Where would you like to go?
I don't know where I fit into this, really. I'm an observer on the wall here. I'll jump into group 3.
Okay, click group 3 and I'll be with you soon. Ian, have you got a group?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I was in. Which group was
Do
I
you
in?
want to go into group 1?
Is that the top? Oh, hang on. Group 1. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Later.
Mark.
Get there.
Well, is that
Jim, you're in group 3. Andrew Davidson.
Sorry, can I? I'm sorry being a pain. Can I go into group 1? I've got a guy who should have been sitting in on group 1, but he's otherwise engaged.
Yeah, that's fine,
So,
Jim.
Lovely,
No worries.
thank you.
Yeah, Andrew Davidson, have you got
Yeah.
a group?
Yeah, type 2 compliance of existing doors, but which group was that? I can't. There's no link.
That would be group 3.
Yeah, 2, isn't it? 2.
Group 3. 3.
It's 2. It's 2, Richard. It's mentioned.
Oh, is it? Okay, group 2. Right, I'll have to go because my group's waiting.
Right, I can't get
Has everybody got a group now?
Not yet, Richard.
Not yet. It's just not going through to any. I've tried.
Right, sorry, I can't see who's talking. Who hasn't got a group?
Andrew Davidson. Sorry.
Andrew, go into group 2.
I am trying to go into, but it's just not taking us anywhere. That's all.
Just what can you sort Andrew out? Nick, you haven't got a group.
Hello.
Hi
No,
there.
Any group.
Any
Your
group.
group. 3.
Well, come into group 3.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I'll see you there in a minute.
All right, Just can you help Andrew because I need to go to my group.
Yeah, I'll help Andrew.
Okay.
I'm there now. Yeah.
Right. Let me.
Okay.
Okay.
No, I've got
Group 3.
there.
Nick, do you know where the links are? They're in the chat.
Yeah, he's gone.
Hello? Are we on the other side?
I think we're on the other side, Alan.
Are we on hold at the moment? Are we waiting for other people to join us? Jez? Do you do a lot of teams, Dennis? Because I don't.
Alan, you have something? What was that?
Yeah, are we just waiting for all the other people to join us now, Jez?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't do an awful lot, Alan. Other members of my team do it all day, every day.
You're an out and about type of guy, are you?
Yeah, so I started off as just a fire door inspector, and I have another side to the business that's grown off of that. And inadvertently, we do audits, office audits, remote office audits for a well-known third-party certification scheme.
Ah.
which shall remain nameless.
Okay.
But most of them are owned by one company.
Ah, right. I think I know who it is then.
Yeah,
It
so
begins with a B or a W, depending, or even an E.
yeah, W, yeah, that's the one. Yeah, so we do the F side of it.
Right.
So I've got a team of 3 that just deal with doing them. They did initially start doing. It all come about due to COVID, so it's only the office side of it, which is basically policies and procedures checking. So that's all they do. They're checking all the paperwork, it's all in place.
Yeah.
Which obviously they can do over Teams because it's all share screen. It's ideal.
Yes.
But yeah, that they did try. This all come about during COVID, and it worked so well just for the office side of it that they've kept it in place. So, and it saves a lot of mileage.
Yeah, but you can't do site audits from
No.
sitting as though.
They did try it, and it just didn't work. It just didn't work.
No.
But yeah, no, all the site stuff's all gone back to on-site stuff again now. But yeah, we have our own frustrations with the system.
I'm sure. Oh, it's nice to get a chance to meet you, Dennis. And
yes, and you at last. I say it was a bit of a short notice last time because I'm booking 3-4 months ahead at the moment. It's that busy.
Wow. Yes.
Crazy times.
And is some of this due to the New England regs, do you think? Or,
yeah,
or
definitely.
something else pushing?
No, definitely Regulation 10's really stepped it all up. And it makes me laugh when due to the new regulations and the new laws. Well, no, they're not really new. They're just being enforced in a different way.
Yes. Looks like we're all coming back together again now.
Hey.
We seem to be in a bit of a lull. So what I thought is that one of the things that we came up with in Group 4 was the management system group was whether or not when we do a fire door set inspection, the feeling was that it ought to include the cavity above a fire door if there's a suspended ceiling with all the services going through it. Any of you guys want to add any comments to that? It might be make use of this time while we're waiting.
Yeah, as a rule.
I think. Sorry.
As a rule, I would always check if it was a suspended ceiling. I would always check above and around the door anyway as part of the wall, because it's all part of the wall system. It's all part of the same thing.
So we need to have a checklist item. If we're going to have a checklist for the process, we need to say, take your ladder and go have a look in the ceiling, and if any of the seals are damaged or missing, then you need to record it and flag it as being failed.
I think we termed it as surrounding construction checks. Whether it's ceiling, walls, floor, whatever it is. It's whatever holds that door set in place.
I think it depends what the client is required to have inspected. Obviously, a fire door set is dependent upon the surrounding construction in relation to the performance, but what you've got to understand is the quantity of fire doors that require inspecting within a housing estate. A compartmentation survey is a separate thing. Obviously, if something jumps out at you while inspecting the fire door set with the surrounding construction, for instance, the frame to wall gap, that's part of the fire door set. But if you see, you're not going to put your head up into the ceiling grid and do a survey of the compartmentation for a fire door inspection. You're just not really physically going to do that, and you're turning a fire door inspection into a full compartmentation inspection instead. That's my opinion anyway.
Sorry, I was just going to say, in our note then, we should just say that surrounding construction should be assessed in conjunction with a full compartment survey, separate.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I was going to say that I think there should be something to say that you need to define what the fire door inspection includes, and whether or not it is the surrounding structure. including ceiling voids and raised floor voids.
Yeah. Are you sort of introducing a difference between, say, a post-construction handover check, and which obviously has got to check all these things, whether you like it or not, because you can't trust the builders. Somebody's got to sign it off. And
Yes.
a regular ongoing inspection when people are not likely to have gone up in the ceiling and done anything anyway.
Well, I think it depends on what we're talking about here. We're talking about in the Type 1 section, which is to do with new buildings essentially, and or new fire door installations, or a Type 2 inspection, which is an existing building, or a Type 3 inspection, which is for the ongoing sort of maintenance. So I think it's relevant at each section, really, that depending on who's doing the inspecting, you've got to be aware of what the scope is, haven't you? And that's got to be agreed by all the stakeholders.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Well, I've amended the I'll just go back and show you that while we're the others can't come in either, so I might as well do it. I've just amended our comment here to add in the phrase surrounding structure, and then expanded it a bit, and that's just a checklist item which will need defining properly at some point.
Yeah,
I think, as Alan said, though, it should be a scope which is agreed between the client and the inspector, rather than a capture-all event for every single inspection.
Okay, this is scope. How's that?
Yeah.
Have I jumped into your meeting? Because I thought I was coming back to the main one.
No, it's the main one, but we're making use of the time because nobody's
No,
quite
right.
coming back.
No, that's good.
So yeah.
No, carry on, Keith.
Is it? Are we back too early or something? Because I thought
No,
Jess tried to fetch us back.
No, 3 o'clock I think was when we're supposed to be coming back. I've also cut back. I think. Let's see where Richard is. In fact, there's Richard and Alan as well, isn't there? They're obviously cracking on.
No, group 2 are here.
Oh, good. Okay, so we've got group 2 and group 4.
Yeah.
We're just waiting for group 3. Yeah. Okay. Jess, are you here at the moment? In fact.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, can you go and see if Richard can come back?
Yeah.
Well, I found that very good. I think it's been very informative.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what? Just again, while we're waiting for group 2, another thing that we also discussed was the potential to have this item here: identify and satisfy door training needs. And I've written here. I don't know, but this is but a video is a potential way of training the residents before they take occupation as to how to deal with fire alarms and fire doors and all the rest of it. Is that if you've any other ideas on that, anybody, feel free to discuss it.
Yeah, we've actually been discussing with a couple of people the flat itself having a QR code in it that could then be carry information to link you to a website on your phone, and then have instructions for your particular escape route and the like. So that's something else, Keith. It feeds into what you're saying there. You'd have a video or a recording, and it would take you through that. So yeah. I mean, it could also take you to a personal evacuation plan or whatever.
So, who's back here now?
We all are. Back? I think we all are, Richard. Yeah.
Okay, because right. Well, where are we? Keith, you're going through group 4's findings, or were you just?
Yeah.
No, we're just filling in. Yeah.
It was. I'm
just going to stop sharing now. We sort of. we just thought we'd use the time.
No, it's fine.
while
We
we're
were a
waiting.
little bit longer. Right, actually, we've got a, can I just ask, because I think it's relevant to everybody, we've got a question for Alan, because we're a bit confused. We're not exactly sure what our type 3 section is for. I've only just looked at it, as you can appreciate, with any depth, because I was doing group 4. And my understanding was that it was basically for what people needed to do when they were doing a type 3 inspection.
Yes.
But there's also a lot on the frequency of inspections and how to determine that. Now, we kind of collectively think that that would be decided by group 4, not by the practitioner doing the inspection, who would be looking at group 3.
Correct.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I mean, obviously they're related. You could say that section 4 should be section 1. You know, you can sort of, we can have a big discussion.
That would be determining that kind of thing, is it?
No,
We've also got to take into account, Richard, that this healthcare document was based on where we were, you know, 3 years ago.
Oh yeah, and also
but
it's
now
health,
because now because of the new England regulations, it's far more prescriptive as to the frequency of inspection, isn't it? And we've
Absolutely.
got to surely we must ensure that you know, the new England regulations form a part of section 3 and section 4.
Absolutely. We're just trying to determine whether that being the case, and that being that it's not a health thing, whether actually we take out all the stuff about timings, because it's not our group 3s to determine that. We're going to have that handed down from wherever. It's going to be handed to us when we've got to do the inspections. So we take that out of our section, because it's just complicating it and adding more, well, basically verbiage to our section, because it's not relevant to us, because we're not making those decisions.
Yeah, I would agree. You know, there's far more legislation in place, certainly regarding housing, than there was for hospitals 3 years ago. So absolutely.
No, because I mean, obviously I'm put with my group 4 hat on. We went through the work, and I suggested to a few people after we'd done the rewrites that actually what would make sense for group 4 in terms of the management, because it talks about a management plan, it might make sense for group 4 to actually write or create a template for what that, I mean, because there's an amount of detail that you've done on this, Alan, obviously, but actually go into more detail as into a template as to exactly what that management plan should entail, and what detail is, what information is needed to fill out the management plan.
Yeah. Can I just say, Richard, that the word in this document have come from a lot of sources. You know, there was the original working group, which I led, but then there was a robust peer review, people like London Fire Brigade, Aviva Insurance, ASFP, and you'll find that a lot of these words are not actually my words. Now, you know, I don't want to take the credit for.
Oh no, Alan, don't think I'm being critical. I'm absolutely
no.
Not
I'm saying it's quite the opposite. You know. No, I don't want to take the credit, because, you know, this is a good working document for healthcare buildings based on the legislation 3 years ago. But we've now got to get real, and we've got to ensure that this is now relevant for housing in 2023. So
absolutely, and as you say, and as George often says, everything's changed now because we're now a regulated industry, and that's paradigm.
Yes.
So while we're on this topic, can I just clarify here? I think we decided in group 4, and I think you probably need to give a stamp of approval here to it, that there will be more than one checklist of things of the process of checking a fire door, depending upon its category of door. So whether it's new build being approved or upgrades being approved, or whether it's a quiet area or a busy area, those sort of things. Is that correct?
George or Alan?
That'd be Alan, I think.
I think that's probably correct, but if you don't mind me saying, I've not really got my head around this because I'm not focused on section 4. What I do know is, you know, there is likely to be quite a large rewrite, and you know, there will be some really useful stuff here that we can use. But I think we've almost got to start again and think in terms of what the Firedoor action plan needs to be for, you know, a block of flats. And I think as a minimum, we need to be thinking in terms of high rise and low rise, don't we? Or whatever the cutoff is. And to be, you know, to be fair, there are people in this group that are far more expert than me on that, and I'm very happy to delegate that decision making to people like, you know, Neil and Ian and Andrew and all the other people I've had conversation with in my group in the last few weeks.
I think there's a big piece of work to be done in Group 4. I think there's a big piece of work to be done there.
I wonder if Group 4 is sort of got too many things, and whether we should have a new first section that just pulls out objectives, responsibilities, and legislation. So you're sort of setting the tone at the beginning.
Yeah.
And the management of all of those responsibilities and legislation comes at the end, because you need to manage what it said at the beginning.
We've got to have the plan to start off with, haven't you?
But also taking it from a legislation and responsibility, and the objective seems to put a piece up front that you know what you're trying to do and why you've got to do it.
Yeah, there is an introduction, of course, to the current reference document.
Right.
I've been talking to people in my group this afternoon. I've found out that quite a few people haven't got this. They haven't actually got the full reference document, and you know, anyone who hasn't got it, I would suggest that you contact myself, George, or Richard.
Everybody should have it. It was it should have been sent to everybody. Everybody that's had information should have that document.
Right.
Okay,
well, there were two other new people in my group today who hadn't been involved, and you know, they weren't in Group 2 last week.
Right. Okay.
They told me they hadn't received it.
Anybody who hasn't got that document, put your name in the chat and just will get it over to you, because obviously you must have that.
Or is it worth just putting a link in the chat, Richard?
I don't know if we've got it actually. Did you want to just can you put the document in the chat?
Yeah, I can put the document, but some people might not be able to access it. I can just email to the people who can who don't have the document.
Okay, just put your email. Okay. So if anybody who needs the document, please just put your email address in the chat. I mean, we've got your email address, but put your email address or your name in the chat so that Jis can send it out to you. Since it's his fault, he didn't send it out earlier.
Just giving some further thought, Richard, as to whether the cart comes before the horse or the horse is coming before the cart. I do think it's very important that we focus on the fact that this is primarily a Firedoor inspection document.
Yes.
And having given it some further thought, I am taking the view that section 4 should remain the 4th section, because we need to first and foremost ensure that people understand how to inspect doors. And section 4, which is all about setting up a Firedoor management scheme, I think that is just guidance for people who need to put the Firedoor inspections into context. So
it's almost,
I think it's an add-on. It's almost an appendices.
It's almost 2 documents, because you've got this is what you've got to do on a type 1 inspection. Yeah.
Yes.
And a type 2 inspection and a type 3 inspection. The management, setting up the whole management methodology is almost separate, isn't it? It's the audience is completely different.
Yeah,
it's a completely different audience.
The idea of having section 4, giving people guidance on creating a robust Firedoor management system, was that having written how to do a type 1 inspection on a new door, a type 2 inspection on an existing door, and a type 3 ongoing inspection of doors that have already been type 1 or type 2. I was finding, when talking to hospital trusts, that they weren't joining it all together. Because as we know, you know, hospitals are very complex places. They've got a very complicated management structure very often. And I just thought, for heaven's sake, if you do a type 1 inspection, you've then got to manage and maintain them. If you do a type 2 inspection, you've then got to manage and maintain them. And so section 4 was almost written as an add-on to say to people, for heaven's sake, you've got to join everything together. So
yeah. Well, we're doing it discreetly. We've got 4 sections. Yeah, we can argue or discuss about which goes where maybe afterwards. Let's just rather than tread water, let's move forward and get some output here. So that being the case, I keep asking Paul, but anybody in group 3, Joe, Nick, Laura, do we feel that we now know what we're doing?
I think that we've got a better idea now. I have anyway.
Okay.
And just need time to reflect and come back to you with something else. Well, not something else, but what I think when I've looked.
Well, we'll do what I suggested, and I'll email you after the meeting, and we'll get together with other section 4ers for a longer meeting to kind of thrash ours out.
Okay.
Okay, right. So that's great. We know what we're doing. Does everybody else know what they're doing? Has anybody else got any confusion at all in what they're supposed to be doing?
I think in our case, Richard, we only got about halfway through the document, so that my group are going to they've volunteered to finish it off and then send us back the comments. So I think we should have a draft for Alan to look at. You know, hopefully this week, if people could turn that around quickly.
Excellent. Oh, that's very good. That's group 1 coming through.
We're much the same with group 2. We, as you know, I created draft 1 of section 2 housing last night based on the feed I'd been given by primarily Neil and Andrew, and the further meeting today, we discussed that I would then issue that. What I need, Richard, if you can give me the email addresses of everyone who joined today's meeting who haven't been so far involved in the group 2, I will issue that to everyone tonight, and the idea being inviting everyone to comment or contribute to that, hopefully by the end of this week, or let's say by Monday morning at the latest, with a view to us saying, right, we now believe that section 2 is there or thereabouts and is ready to be rejoined up to the other sections.
Okay. So Keith, how about you with section 4?
I think we're okay. I think we've what we've basically done is suggest additions or amendments to the text that you produced last time in green. And then people can then review that offline and submit it. I mean, that's the issue. If people submit it, we can consolidate it prior to the next meeting, so we have something ready to go forwards with.
Excellent. Okay, that sounds good. I think we're good. I'm just gonna, if I can find, I don't know where I put it. Oh, I found it. Wait a minute. This is sorry, let me share my screen. There, can you see that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, this is a questionnaire to get. Actually, George, do you want to introduce the questionnaire?
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, from the conversations that we've been having over this last couple of weeks, there's a range of different things that have come out of that I think it would be useful for us to gather. So, for example, if we could identify whether you just do door inspections or whether you are actually a manufacturer or fabricate them, or do you do repairs to fire doors? I would, there's somebody was, anyway, really, first of all, that. Secondly, if you could scroll down, Richard. So some people that I've spoken to are actually fire engineers who have been on this as well. So that's a different level of range of services that they offer. So, you know, some people, as I say, are fire door inspectors, and also they're able to interpret the fire engineering plans. It was also a question as to if you're a fire door inspector, would you be commissioned by the landlord, or would it sometimes be through third parties? You know, and if so, I'm just trying to get a feel for the relationship there, or whether you're actually commissioning through third parties. Then looking at it from an ongoing point of view, would you be looking to try and commission you or to get the work so that you've got an ongoing annual inspections? And what do you think would help you achieve that? And maybe looking at it from the landlord's point of view, maybe is that something that you'd be looking for as a potential service, or would it just be on an ad hoc basis when you need it? And then how does this all wrap up to the whole building safety case? I've spoken to a couple of fire door inspectors who are also looking to roll this into a much wider service offer of not just doing fire door inspections or fire door reports, but also tie that into a building safety case report. And then the question then is, how are you looking to provide that information? I mean, it's interesting that, you know, some people, for example, are using Bolster, which, you know, is quite widely used in hospitals, in my experience. But that's all it's doing, as it were. Whereas it needs, there's something else that possibly, you know, certainly from a safety case perspective, you need to look at things in a more holistic way to from that point of view. Also, I think we've got down there. Are you also,
so George? Is this primarily for inspection people?
Principally, yes. Yes, it is.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, can I just make a point? Yeah, BIM4Housing hitherto has been largely, not entirely, but largely based on the construction side, hasn't it, George? We've got operations group, obviously, but getting you guys who are actually doing the actual inspection of the assets is quite a new thing and a very crucial thing. But so it's just to help us get a bit of a handle. Sorry, George, carry on.
Yeah, it's also a matter of if you're doing fire door inspections, do you also do compartment walls, penetration seals, cavity barriers, dampers, the things that go and make up a compartment? I'm asking the question because I imagine, well, not I imagine, I know some of the people I've spoken to, they're dedicated to fire doors, and others they also do compartmentation. So it would be helpful. We're just trying to understand what services you're actually offering and what skill sets you've got, so that we can then filter that out, if that makes sense.
Okay, excellent. Right, so we're going to be hitting you, or certainly the relevant people, with the questionnaire. If you can help us out by filling that out, would be very helpful.
Could I just say,
no
Richard, if any landlords are on here, it might be useful to, if you will probably have your own fire door inspectors. I mean, Steve Wiper was saying earlier that he's been doing that. It would be interesting to get them to engage with this as well. I'm just saying that off the top of my head, Richard.
Sorry, yeah, that makes sense. Have you got a questionnaire for them?
It would be the same questionnaire. We'd just like them to provide their contact details, I think.
Got you. Okay, so anybody who wants to receive that, we'll email it out to you anyway. But if there's anybody who's particularly interested in helping us with that, put your details in chat or your name in the chat. Has anybody got anything else now? Because we're running tight for time.
I have, George, if that's okay. I've just noticed the meeting chat, and Paul Bray has asked how are we doing with collecting photos of doors. One of the things I'd like to say is that we do need to turn this reference document from a healthcare reference document that's got hospital doors in it to a housing one. Can I suggest that whether they're sent to myself or Richard or George or whoever, can you please, if you send an image that you believe is relevant, can you please tell us on which page you believe the image is relevant? And can you also accompany the image with a description of what the image is showing? Because although the image might be relevant and obvious to you, we need to describe to people what they're actually seeing, people who might not find it the reason for the image so obvious. So I hope that makes sense.
Good point.
Yeah.
Okay, then.
Could I just say something? Yeah. Could I just say something finally, Richard? I know I'm pushing you over your time, and that is, we'd really like to understand how this is going to be, how what you're doing in terms of the inspections are being fed back to the landlords, so that they can consider them as part of their wider strategy. So it would be really quite interesting to understand that. So I'd quite like to have a chat with you, on a one-to-one basis, just to see how that's how that fits in what the wider goal is of the Building Safety Act. So I'll reach out to you individually, if that's okay, to talk that through. So I think it would be useful.
Okay, well, I think we know where we're going and what we're doing. So I don't, right, okay, so are we having another meeting? So I know my lot are. We've got another meeting. Are you doing you guys are doing the rest of yours by email?
Group 2 are, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we've got a nice group here together, and we've got a number that couldn't make it today. So I think we want to keep this going. There's certainly plenty of issues that still need covering, and so watch this space. We don't like to let people go, so we'll be in touch with you very shortly.
I think the point is, this is a community of people who have got a shared goal, and we're only starting on the journey in many ways. The amount of work that I think most landlords have got coming up is very, very significant, and if we can provide some expert and advice from, well, you can provide the expert advice. I think that's going to make it a lot easier, and probably is going to improve the competence of people actually working through. So if you're on board with that, we'd like to keep that going.
Absolutely. So until next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.